Have you ever had a filmmaker submit their film to Hollyshorts, have it be rejected, and then come back to you and say, you know what, you were right, it wasn't up to screening level?
That really hasn't happened that I can recall in the direct story, no. And that's something I think is interesting. I think it should happen. I think, there's various ways we can do things to help encourage people to come out. Like if people follow up, like if you send rejection letters, people may not follow up or say anything. Quite frankly, we're not going to chase them down to, hey, you should write back to me or give me a response to my rejecting. Obviously, we're not going to chase that down. But many people respond with, hey, why did I not get in? Or some people send really nice emails or constructive criticism type emails, like asking for information or whatever. Some people are angry sometimes. And of course, we're going to probably ignore that if it's really nasty and that kind of stuff. You get all types of responses. But what we'd like to see is more people respond with, hey, I'd like to have a more thorough discussion why. Why didn't I get in or whatever? And we'll say, hey, here's a discounted pass to screenings. Come to the festival and come check out the films yourself and see what you see. And we can compare and things like that, compare and contrast, or, and come up to us and talk to us about what you think. Or maybe you'll see, hey, maybe my film didn't live up to these standards and now I understand why. But that doesn't happen. It's very rare that filmmakers will accept the pass or after that kind of email and actually come take the pass and come attend the festival and things. That does happen sometimes, not very often. But as far as the next step of coming up, watching the films and actually having a conversation with us, I've never had that conversation with anyone. Just come up, hey, Daniel, I want to talk to you real quick. I saw the films, I came, you guys offered this pass to come check out some films. I didn't make it in, but I'm here to see, and yeah, you know what? I understand, or I see these films and I learned something about this and that, or whatever the case, or just I don't feel like my film was up to the par. That kind of thing, that just never happened. And I think that should happen more often. Maybe they can come in and say, you know what? I don't get it. I still think my film's better. Fine. Well, we can have that conversation. And at least they'd be at the festival attending, watching other films, taking part. The acceptance of rejection doesn't mean you can't attend the festival and take part. You can still, anyone can buy a ticket regardless of in or not, or you're in the festival 5 years ago, you come back, you can come buy a ticket. It's general public, general festival audience to come see films and come see the festival and participate. And that should happen more often. I mean, they talk about it at some of the film schools. We talk about films that don't get in versus films that do get in. And some of the students, of course, being disappointed by classmates or whatever getting in, they don't get in. Why don't they come out? How come they don't come out and see the films as well? And also encourage that. You should be at the festival taking the films in to see what may have not have worked for your film or why. Understand what's out there, right? Like if I'm in that position, I want to know what's out there. I want to know why. What am I up against? What was the reason I didn't get in? That's important information. That's something that should be chased down. They should be knocking at our door to come to attend the screenings and come to the festival. Not, oh well, screw you guys, you suck. This idea that we suck and it's your fault, not mine, or something. And that's not the right mentality about it. And that's what I think is sort of a prevailing mentality, is that it's never anyone else's fault, but the others are ours. And not to say again, we can get things wrong. I'm not sitting here trying to tout our horn or something, but it's true that there is probably many times a reason why maybe the film didn't get in, and it'd be good, and it might behoove a filmmaker to say, you know what, let me go check these films out. Let me see what's going on here with this festival. Let me see what they're looking for. Let me get a little more information, or even research all the festivals and know what you're submitting to and things like that. It's just part of the process that you should know. It shouldn't be something to just act blindly to, like, oh well, my film is amazing, my work is the best, and I just believe in it wholeheartedly, so I don't care about anything else. I'm just submitting, and I should get in, and that's it because I'm great. Like, okay, well that's not necessarily real life here. So it'd be good if people would actually take more initiative that way, and I'd be really happy and pleasantly surprised to have it more. It just doesn't. It's just even offering the things like pass discounts and stuff where people can we can encourage them to come out and check it out and see what's what, and see what other films are there, and maybe they can see what did or didn't work or why they didn't get in. It's just not something that happens, and it's just interesting because it should happen more often. It doesn't. It's just rare. It's rare.
Do you accept rough cuts?
Yeah, for submissions.
You do? Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you recommend that?
I mean, I don't necessarily recommend it. No, I don't. But it also doesn't. We had, I can think of a few off the top of my head. I have one right now, like this one film last year that made it. That was a rough cut when they submitted. And it was a giant rough cut too, because there was a whole element missing of a big part of the story with the visual effects that would have enhanced, it made it much better when it was done. But knowing what was there and what was to come, I can see how great the story could be and the potential of the film was, and I was really enjoying it. So I knew that, of course I needed to see the final cut to see what that was, because if the visual effects were hideous, then that kills the whole thing. But they were great, and it was really good, and it was fine. Oh, okay. But I knew that was I had a feeling that was gonna be very good. And I loved the movie, so it still worked and ended up getting in. So that was a rough cut, and it was a big one in the sense that a big element of the story was simply not even there at that time.
Oh, wow.
It's hard to describe without getting into details of the story and stuff, but yeah. So yes, so some rough cuts can still make it in, no problem. So it's not some kind of detriment, but it can be if it's, how rough are we talking here? Like some films they're pretty rough cuts. It's like, okay, I can't even gauge how good this really is. And as it stands, this cannot compete. So I guess what I'm getting at is if it's too much of a rough cut where there's still too many elements missing, it probably is best not to submit that. Just for a deadline especially. Because look, we have our deadlines, but okay, early bird. Okay, you might save $10, $15 or something if you submit later. Or vice versa. If you submit early, you save some money. Later, you have to pay a little more. But I'd rather pay more money and have a final cut if I can, and have a chance to get accepted in that way, and have my best work forward instead of saying, well, I saved a few bucks, I'm gonna submit for that deadline. I'm so eager to get the deadline in. So if I give any advice, like, look, don't worry about that. Spend the extra money. We're not talking $100 here. We're talking $15, $10 difference of a deadline. Wait, get it ready, and submit then instead of rushing for that deadline just to submit. It's better to submit the final cut if you can.